When you stop speaking, your silence starts echoing louder than their thoughts. My friends, this one hits deep, because the moment you step back, not with rage, not with coldness, but with calm, powerful detachment, something strange happens. Their world starts to shake a little, and suddenly the person who seemed so indifferent starts to feel everything you once carried, not because you begged, not because you chased, but because you simply walked away with grace. Hey folks, imagine this. You're the flame, and for a while someone sat comfortably near your warmth, maybe even took it for granted, but the moment you step back, the cold hits them. And it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's just absent. That's when the shock sets in. That's when they start asking themselves, wait, where did that warmth go? See, people don't notice the air they breathe until it's gone. That's the power of your calm exit. That's why their heart starts to follow. They told you silence was weakness, that stepping back means giving up, that if you don't chase, you'll lose them. But let me break this lie for good. Chasing never brings love. It only proves fear. You're not meant to beg for something that was never yours to hold. You're meant to stand still and let what's true come to you. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." And freedom, my friends, starts when you release what isn't aligned with your peace. You want to know why they feel it more when you stop speaking? Because silence creates space, and space is where truth finally echoes. They can't drown you out with noise anymore. They can't ignore your presence when it's no longer around to soothe them. That's when they finally start listening to themselves, to the bond, to the void. Let's be real. You could have fought harder. You could have texted more, explained your worth, defended your side of the story. But instead, you chose calm. And that calm, that decision to walk away without a single scream, became louder than any argument. You became the lesson, not because you were cruel, but because you were unavailable. It's almost funny, isn't it, how you were always there, showing up, being real, and they couldn't see it. But the moment you stop chasing, now they can't stop thinking about you. That's not a coincidence. That's gravity. And gravity doesn't scream. It pulls silently, steadily, just like you. So if you're sitting there wondering, do they even care? Understand this. The heart always follows stillness when it's real, because real energy doesn't vanish. It lingers, it haunts, it teaches, and it transforms. Not them first, but you. Remember this. When you let go of control, you gain clarity. When you stop chasing what's running, it has the chance to turn back. But even if it doesn't, you'll still be standing tall, peaceful, unbothered, and whole. So drop this in the comments right now. I choose peace. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. Say it like you mean it. Tap that like button, subscribe to our channel, and stay with me, because what we're about to explore next might just change the way you handle love forever. Number 1. The law of emotional gravity. The moment you stop holding on is the moment they start feeling the fall. My friends, this one's going to challenge you, but it's also going to set you free. See, we've been sold a lie. That love is something you hold on to tightly. That the tighter you cling, the more someone stays. That effort equals value. That chasing equals care. But let me break that for you right now. What truly connects people isn't force, it's energy, presence, and most importantly, absence. Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a quiet forest. You let go of a leaf. You don't throw it, you don't crush it, you simply release it. And what happens? Gravity pulls it down, effortlessly, calmly. That's the law of emotional gravity. When you stop forcing things, when you stop running after someone who's been running from themselves, your calm absence becomes the gravity that starts pulling them in. Not because you chased, but because you stopped. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the more you cared, the more they pulled away? Like your effort made them colder, and the second you stopped trying, suddenly they noticed, that's not your imagination, that's not your insecurity, that's the imbalance shifting, because energy doesn't lie, it reveals, and when you reclaim your energy, you shift the weight back to them. But here's the truth, most people don't want to face. Stepping back is terrifying, not because you don't trust them, but because you've been trained not to trust yourself. The fear starts whispering, what if they never come back? What if they move on? What if I lose them for good? But ask yourself, were they ever really with you? Or were you just carrying all the weight alone? Here's the trap. You think your constant presence proves your worth. You think if you stop showing up, they'll forget you. You think silence will make them feel nothing. But my friends, silence makes them feel everything. Marcus Aurelius once said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. And I'll add to that, if it is not peaceful, don't stay in it. The reason why they start to feel your absence the moment you step back calmly is because you stopped giving them a safety net. You stopped being their emotional airbag. They're no longer cushioned by your consistency. Suddenly, they feel the quiet, the missing presence, the unanswered energy. And trust me, energy leaves fingerprints on the soul. It's like removing a soundtrack from a movie. You didn't notice how powerful it was until it went silent. And now every scene feels off, empty. That's what your presence was to them. That's what your calm energy did for them until you stepped away. But it's hard, right? It's hard because your heart wants to fix. It wants to explain. It wants to say, I'm still here if you need me. But real strength, Stoic strength, is learning to say nothing. Not out of pettiness, but out of clarity. You're not punishing them with silence. You're protecting yourself with stillness. And you're not doing it to get a reaction. You're doing it because chasing someone who doesn't see your value doesn't increase your worth. It depletes it. Let me paint another picture. You're in a room with someone you love, but the room's on fire. And every time you try to save them, they walk further into the flames. At some point, you have to walk out. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself. That's the moment when things shift, when your love becomes a mirror, not a leash, when your absence becomes their awakening, and it's not just about relationships, it's about life. The more you chase things, the more they slip. But when you move from need to peace, from pursuit to presence, everything begins to find its way to you. So if they start to come closer after you walk away, don't mistake it for magic. It's not manipulation. It's not a trick. It's alignment. It's the universe showing you that the most powerful energy is not pursuit, it's pull. But don't get it twisted. Not everyone will follow. Some people will let you go because they were never meant to stay. And that's okay, because when you release what isn't aligned with your energy, you make space for what truly is. Folks, let this sink in. You don't have to chase to be chosen. You don't have to speak to be heard. You don't have to prove to be valued. You just have to be whole in your silence, unapologetic in your distance, and fearless in your peace. So here's what I want you to do right now. Take a breath. Stop trying to force what's fading. Let your calm become your currency. Let your peace become your presence. Drop this in the comments right now. I am the gravity. Say it for yourself. Show the world, show the algorithm, show the people who overlooked you that you don't need noise to make an impact. Because when you move in silence, you move in strength. And when you step back calmly, you don't just disappear, you redefine the entire connection. Stay with me, because what we're about to explore next is the reason they can't stop thinking about you, even when you're gone. Number 2. How pulling back exposes their true feelings. Sometimes the only way to know where you truly stand is to stop walking toward them and see if they move toward you. You ever get tired of guessing how they feel? Tired of trying to decode the mixed signals, the hot and cold energy, the I miss you one day and the distance the next? Let's break this down, folks. The only way to expose what's real is to remove what's fake, and sometimes that means pulling back, quietly, calmly, not as a game, but as a test of truth. Because nothing reveals someone's heart more clearly than your absence. Imagine standing in a river, trying to hold the current still. You push, strain, and fight to make the water stay where you want it. But the more you fight it, the more it slips through your fingers. That's how emotion works. That's how attention works. The more you chase it, the more it runs. But the moment you stand still, everything starts to reveal itself. See, when you're always available, always calling, always reaching out, they never have to ask themselves what life feels like without you. You're the safety net. You're the background music they take for granted. But the moment you go silent, that music stops. And the silence doesn't just expose the room, it exposes their heart. Suddenly they have to sit with the truth. They have to wonder, did I lose them? Did I push too far? Did I ever even appreciate what I had? And trust me, those questions hit harder in silence than any argument ever could. Here's what people won't tell you. Not everyone values you when you're present. Some only realize it when you're gone. And that's not your fault. That's just human nature. Some hearts are too noisy to hear clearly until the world gets quiet. And that quiet, you create it when you pull back. Not with bitterness, but with strength. Now I get it. You've been taught to fight for love, to always try, to never give up. But let's be real, my friends. If you're the only one trying, that's not love. That's labor. And love isn't proven through exhaustion. It's proven through reciprocation. So what happens when you step back? They either reach for you, or they let you go. And as much as that truth might hurt, it's the truth you need. Because you deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. You deserve to be missed, not replaced. And you'll never know who truly values your presence until you give them a taste of your absence. This is where things get real. You start to see clearly. You start to feel lighter, because that pressure you carried to keep it alive wasn't yours to hold alone. Relationships are mirrors, not one-man performances. And pulling back, it turns that mirror around. Suddenly, it's not about how much you're giving, it's about what they're willing to give when you stop. And yes, it'll be uncomfortable. That silence will scream at you. Your fears will get loud. What if they don't come back? What if this silence pushes them away? But here's a deeper question. Why are you holding on to someone who can't survive without your constant chasing? What kind of connection is that, really? One that requires your silence to reveal their feelings isn't love. It's dependency, wrapped in confusion. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." So ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? Someone who begs to be seen, or someone who stands tall and lets their presence speak for itself? Because when you pull back with calm confidence, you're not running, you're observing, you're letting the energy speak, you're watching their truth unfold in the space you left. And more often than not, you'll find one of two things. They chase you back with clarity and genuine emotion, or they reveal that they were never willing to carry anything at all. Either way, you win. Either way, you free yourself from false hope and cloudy feelings. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong people, and pulling back is how you make space for the right ones to come into view. So if you've been carrying the weight, trying to fix, trying to hold it all together, pause, just pause. Give silence a chance to do what words never could. Give distance the room to reveal what attention may have been hiding, because clarity lives in the stillness. Write this in the comments right now. Let truth reveal itself. Not for them, for you. Let your stillness speak. Let your presence echo louder than your words. Let them show you once and for all whether they truly care or if they just like the way you cared for them. And stay with me, because what happens next, when your silence becomes the loudest thing in their life, that's when everything changes. Number 3. The brain craves closure, but your silence denies it. People don't fear your goodbye. They fear the fact that you said nothing when you left. Let's get right to the truth, folks. One of the most uncomfortable things a person can experience, more than rejection, more than heartbreak, is incomplete closure. You want to know why your silence keeps echoing in their mind long after you've stepped away. Because the human brain is wired to finish stories. And when you don't give them a final chapter, their mind keeps writing new ones, obsessively, endlessly. See, we've all been there. You walk away calmly. No screaming, no begging, no dramatic exit. You just stop showing up. And to them, that's not peace, that's mystery. And mystery is far more powerful than any emotional outburst could ever be. Imagine it like this. You're reading a book, deep into the story, and suddenly, without warning, the last chapter is ripped out. The characters just vanish. No explanation, no conclusion. You sit there staring at the blank page, flipping through, hoping for something that's not coming. That frustration, that ache for resolution, that's what your silence creates in their mind. And let's be honest, most people don't want the truth. They want control. They want to feel like they had the last word, like they could predict the outcome. But when you step back without fanfare, when you disappear without delivering the why, you strip them of that control. And what's left? Restlessness, reflection, regret. This is where the game changes, because your silence doesn't just mean I'm gone. It says something deeper. It says you're not owed an explanation for how I protect my peace. That's power. That's Stoicism. That's energy that doesn't chase or apologize. It simply moves on. And let me tell you something that most won't. People will pretend not to care while secretly unraveling behind closed doors. They'll fake indifference, post selfies, laugh too loud, stay busy, but inside their mind is doing laps trying to solve a puzzle that has no pieces left, because you didn't hand them any. You left them to face their own reflection, alone. Now I know what you're thinking, but won't my silence make me look cold? Listen, silence isn't cold when it comes from peace. It's not silence born from manipulation. It's not the kind that plays games. It's silence that says, I respect myself too much to explain what you refused to see while I was present. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. There's a reason why the most unforgettable people in our lives are the ones who walked away quietly. It's not what they said, it's what they didn't say. That blank space in the conversation becomes a canvas. And the other person paints all over it with questions, doubts, and realizations they were too proud to face before. Here's the deeper truth, folks. Closure doesn't come from conversations. Closure comes from acceptance. And when you step back silently, you force them to create that acceptance on their own. No emotional crutches, no final speech, just reality. And reality, when it hits in silence, hits hard. Think of it like this. You were the steady beat in their background, the consistent rhythm they never thought would fade. But now the beat is gone, and the silence is louder than anything you ever said. That's why they replay your every word. That's why they reread your old messages. That's why they watch your social media, waiting for some sign, any sign, that gives them closure. But you've already given it. The moment you stepped away calmly, You told the whole story. You told them, I won't fight for someone who isn't fighting for me. You told them, I don't need chaos to prove I care. And most importantly, you told them, I value my peace more than your confusion. And yes, it's hard, especially if you're the type of person who always wants to explain, to make peace, to be understood. But not everyone deserves to understand you. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your heart spelled out in a goodbye message. Sometimes the real growth is in not saying anything at all. So let me remind you of something. You don't owe anyone closure. You owe yourself peace. If they truly cared, they would have shown it when your presence still had weight. Now that you're gone, your silence has become the truth they can't escape. Drop this in the comments right now. My silence speaks volumes. Say it loud. Say it with conviction. Show the world you're not afraid to walk away without a speech. Show them that your absence is not a weakness. It's a declaration of your worth. And stick with me, because up next, we're going even deeper. You think silence is powerful now? Wait until we show you how it becomes a mirror that shatters the illusion they built while you were still standing beside them. Number 4. Stillness breaks the ego, not the bond. When you stop responding to chaos, you're not ending the connection, you're ending the illusion. My friends, let's tell the truth, loud and clear. There's this fear that if you go quiet, if you stop explaining yourself, if you stop showing up for someone who keeps pulling away, the bond will break. But that's the lie. The bond doesn't break when you stop speaking. The ego does. And that's what they really feel when you go still. Not abandonment, not rejection, but the collapse of their control over you. Think about it. Most people are used to attention as a form of power. They get used to you texting first, to you explaining yourself, to you showing up even when you're hurting. They count on your reaction to validate their place in your life. And when you stop giving that reaction, something inside them cracks. It's not the love that breaks, it's their sense of emotional control. You're not breaking the connection, you're breaking the game. And suddenly they're no longer in charge of how it plays out. That's when the confusion starts, the uncertainty, the overthinking, the internal scrambling to figure out why your silence feels so loud. Picture this. They're used to holding a mirror, and every time they looked at you, it showed them the version of themselves they liked, the one who was wanted, needed, pursued. But now the mirror's gone. You took it with you, and all that's left is a reflection they can't control. No praise, no reassurance, no emotional fuel, just stillness, just them, alone, with their ego. Let me ask you something. How many times have you felt the need to clarify your worth, to argue that you're enough, to fight for a place in someone's life that didn't even require all that noise before things changed? Here's the truth. Your value doesn't live in how much noise you make to be seen. It lives in how calm you can be when you're not. And yes, this is hard, especially for those of us who love deeply, who feel everything. You want to speak, you want to fix it, you want to shake them and say, "Why can't you see what we had?" But you won't, because now you understand that the real strength isn't in explaining the connection, it's in letting it speak for itself. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that quote, that's the anchor, because when you step into your stillness, you're not walking away from love, you're walking away from chaos. You're choosing power over panic, peace over performance. See, ego hates silence. Ego thrives on response. That's why they'll try to provoke you, make you jealous, make you angry, even make you doubt yourself. Because if they can't feel your presence, at least they want to feel your reaction. But don't fall for it. Don't hand your peace to someone else's confusion. What you're doing by pulling back calmly isn't rejection, it's reflection. You're giving them a chance to meet the version of themselves that exists without your constant reassurance. And that version, it's not always pretty, but it's necessary. Because if the bond was real, if the connection was true, it won't shatter just because you stopped chasing. It will reveal its depth. It will either grow in your absence or fade, because it was never rooted in anything solid to begin with. You see, silence isn't just an exit, it's a doorway through which only the ones meant for you will walk. And if they don't walk through it, let them go. They were clinging to the performance, not the person. So, folks, listen closely. You're not breaking the bond by being still, you're letting it be tested. And only the real ones will survive that test. Only the ones whose love is deeper than ego will find their way back through the silence. And if you're afraid that your stillness makes you weak, let me remind you, a calm sea doesn't mean it's shallow. Sometimes the quietest waters run the deepest, and sometimes the most powerful messages are delivered with 0 words. So write this in the comments right now: my stillness is strength. Show the world that your silence isn't retreat, it's clarity. Show them you don't have to scream to be heard. Show them that walking away peacefully is sometimes the loudest boundary you can set. And stay with me, because next we're going to talk about something even more powerful. What happens when you become unavailable but not angry? When your absence is calm but undeniable? That's when you stop being a person in their life and start becoming a presence in their soul. Number 5. The power of being unavailable but not angry. You don't have to slam the door for them to feel it close. Sometimes the quiet click is what echoes forever. My friends, this part right here, this is where everything starts to shift. Because there's something rare, something incredibly powerful about a person who becomes unavailable, but not bitter. Who walks away, not with noise or revenge, but with grace. You don't curse, you don't explode, you don't try to make them feel what you feel. You just stop being where they took you for granted. And that silence, that calm withdrawal, it speaks louder than any scream ever could. See, people expect drama. They're used to reactions. They're used to people fighting for the last word, proving their point, clinging for attention. But when you pull back, with no anger in your heart and no need to be seen, you mess with the pattern, you break their rhythm. They don't know what to do with that kind of peace. Imagine it like this. You've always been the open door, the warm light, the steady energy, and they walked in and out freely, never even stopping to ask, "Hey, does this door ever close?" But now it's not slammed shut. It's just not open anymore. And the lights are off. No chaos, no scene, just quiet, calm. And suddenly they realize they never thought this space would stop welcoming them. Let's talk about that shift. When you go from accessible to unavailable, not because you're punishing them, but because you've finally chosen yourself. You've stopped explaining, stopped reaching out, stopped waiting, and you're not doing it to teach them a lesson. You're doing it because you've learned your own. Here's the truth. Being unavailable without anger shows unmatched emotional maturity. It says, I love myself too much to stay somewhere I'm not seen clearly. It says, I can care deeply, but I won't betray my peace just to prove it. And it hits different, doesn't it? When someone expected the usual cycle, argue, distance, chase, return, but this time you didn't participate, you didn't chase, you didn't correct them, you just became unreachable, emotionally, energetically, not because you don't care, but because you finally do, for yourself. Let me ask you this. How many times did you try to fix it? How many times did you give them another chance to get it right? And now here you are, done explaining, not because you're heartless, but because you're exhausted. They don't understand it at first. Your peace confuses them. Your calm unsettles them because they're used to the noise. They're used to the reaction. But now they have to sit with something far more painful, the weight of your absence. Marcus Aurelius said, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" And that's the truth, folks. Anger burns you, even when it's aimed at them. But peace heals you, even when it confuses them. That's why being unavailable but not angry is the ultimate power move, because you're not just walking away from them, you're walking back to yourself. You're reclaiming your space, your time, your heart. You're no longer available for people who want your presence, but not your value. And here's where the magic happens. They start to feel everything you stopped saying, every unspoken boundary, every overlooked effort, every ignored moment. It all starts to echo in your stillness. That's when they realize it wasn't noise that kept the connection alive. It was your quiet consistency. And now that it's gone, the silence screams. But don't fall for the bait. When they feel that void, some will try to pull you back into the old cycle. They'll poke at you, test you, try to get a rise, because anger would give them comfort. It would mean they still have a piece of you, but you're calm. That shakes them. That makes them realize they don't know you anymore, because now you're moving different. You're not posting quotes to prove a point. You're not subtweeting your sadness. You're not crying out for closure. You're just at peace. And peace isn't loud, it's magnetic. So say this with me right now: my peace is not up for negotiation. Drop it in the comments. Let the world know you're no longer reacting to people who confuse your love with weakness. Show yourself that you've evolved past the need for chaos just to feel seen. And stay with me, because what we're about to dive into next is even deeper. When your energy disappears and they finally start wondering where it went, that's when the chase begins. Not from you, but from them. Because curiosity doesn't grow in comfort, it grows in absence. Number 6. When energy withdraws, curiosity enters. The moment your energy leaves the room, theirs wakes up trying to find it. My friends, let's talk about one of the most underestimated shifts in any connection. The moment your energy disappears, not your words, not your body, your energy. Because when you finally stop giving them the invisible parts of you, the attention, the care, the effort they never had to ask for, that's when curiosity sneaks in. Not because you're trying to provoke it, but because your absence created a silence their ego can't explain away. Let me break it down for you. They were used to feeling your vibe, even when you said nothing. You texted first. You stayed up late listening. You noticed the things they never had to say out loud. Your presence was felt even when you were quiet. But now, you've pulled that energy back. You didn't slam a door. You didn't announce a departure. You just unplugged, calmly, and now every room feels different to them. It's like walking into a house that always smelled like cinnamon, warm, familiar, comforting. But today they open the door and it smells like nothing. It's cold, still, empty. That absence, that's what they feel when you stop pouring into someone who never thought the well would run dry. And it shakes them, because suddenly they start noticing everything they never looked at before. The way you listened, the way you checked in, the way you made effort seem effortless. You were the constant hum in the background of their life. Now it's gone, and they're left with a question echoing in their mind. Where did that energy go? And here's the twist. They won't ask you directly. Not at first, because ego doesn't let people admit what their soul already knows. Instead, they'll start checking your social media, watching your stories, mentioning you in passing to mutual friends, little breadcrumbs, small signs of curiosity. That's how it begins. That's how they start feeling the pull, not to your words, but to your energy. Because that's the truth about energy. It doesn't lie. And it doesn't beg either. It just exits, quietly, with dignity. And once it's gone, you realize how much it was doing in silence. That's the kind of presence they underestimated. That's the kind of presence that doesn't ask to be chased, but ends up being chased anyway. Let me ask you this, folks. How many times did you try to explain what your energy was worth? How many times did you beg to be seen, to be felt, to be appreciated? And now that you've gone still, now that you've stopped feeding their comfort, they suddenly notice. That's not coincidence. That's karma in real time. That's what happens when you stop being their emotional battery. There's a line by Lao Tzu that says, "Silence is a source of great strength." And let me add to that, it's also a source of revelation, because your silence creates a space where they finally hear themselves. And in that space, curiosity begins to bloom. But don't mistake their curiosity for a change of heart just yet. Some people don't miss you. They miss the way your energy made them feel, and you have to be wise enough, grounded enough, stoic enough to see the difference. Because when you stop chasing, the roles reverse, not in a manipulative way, but in a natural way. The energy rebalances, the silence corrects the chaos, and now they're leaning in. Now they're wondering, did I mess this up? Were they really as solid as I thought? But here's the secret. Curiosity is the beginning, not the destination. Don't let their sudden interest pull you back into old cycles. Let your calm be your compass. Let your peace guide your next move. Because real power isn't in making them want you, it's in knowing you don't need them to. And that kind of energy, that kind of still, unshaken clarity, it turns heads, it turns tables, and it turns the entire story around. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stood still long enough for them to feel what they never could when you were always available. So write this in the comments right now. My absence has power. Let the world know you're done handing out your energy like loose change. Let them wonder, let them question, let their silence grow heavier as yours grows stronger. And stick with me, because what happens next when they start to replay every moment you were there and now you're not? That's when the emotional weight of your absence becomes too loud to ignore. And that's where we're going next. Number 7, their mind fills the silence with emotion. What the mind can't explain, the heart begins to feel, and in your absence, both start working overtime. You want to know what really keeps someone up at night? It's not the fight. It's not the goodbye. It's not even the words left unsaid. It's the silence that lingers after all of it. The stillness that shows up after you've withdrawn your energy completely. That's what sticks. That's what echoes. Because when you stop giving, their mind doesn't go quiet. It goes wild. My friends, here's the truth. A calm exit creates the loudest questions. You didn't yell. You didn't beg. You didn't try to prove a point. You just stopped showing up the way you used to. And now their brain is trying to fill in the blanks. Their heart starts reaching for pieces that were always there until they weren't. And it's that emotional vacuum, that space you left behind, that becomes their new obsession. They'll start replaying conversations they never paid attention to before. Rereading texts, remembering moments you shared that once felt ordinary. Now, every small detail starts to matter. Every little gesture becomes a clue. Why did you go silent? Was it me? Were you always this strong? Did I miss the signs? And here's the twist. They won't admit it. Not out loud, not right away, because ego hates acknowledging regret. But regret thrives in silence, and now they're swimming in it. Not because you made them feel guilty, but because you took your truth and walked away with it, peacefully. That's what haunts them. Not your anger, not your exit, your stillness. Picture this. You were a steady flame, quiet, constant, and they stood next to it for so long they stopped feeling its warmth, until the moment you blew it out. Now they're in the dark, and instead of appreciating the light when it was there, they're left trying to remember how it felt. That's how your energy worked. You weren't loud, but you were present. You weren't dramatic, but you were undeniable. And now that you're gone, every corner of their world feels colder. This is the part no one tells you about, the psychological spiral that happens when someone realizes they lost something they never really tried to keep. Because while you were steady, they were careless. While you were showing up, they were distracted. And now, in your absence, their heart starts waking up. But it's not met with comfort. It's met with silence. The mind hates open loops. It craves conclusions. That's why your silence is so loud. It leaves the loop wide open. No ending, no explanation, just questions. And that's where emotion takes over. They start to feel things they never allowed themselves to feel when you were right there, because you were too easy to reach, too consistent, too emotionally available. Now, their heart starts working double time, trying to make sense of the story, trying to connect feelings to facts, but the more they try to solve it, the more they're forced to look inward, not at you, but at themselves. And that, right there, that's where growth either happens or they collapse. Some will finally realize your value, others will run from the reflection, but either way, you've done your part. You've held your ground. You didn't beg to be seen. You allowed your absence to become the lesson. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's exactly what you've done. You didn't preach about your worth. You showed it by walking away. You didn't argue for their attention. You let your energy do the talking. And now they feel every ounce of what you were, because they're left with every ounce of what you're no longer giving. So here's the takeaway, folks. The heart doesn't forget a steady presence. The mind doesn't forget unfinished emotions. And when both are left in silence, they don't move on easily. They reflect. They search. They remember. And you keep moving forward. You don't lower your value for someone who only saw it when you stepped away. You keep standing in your peace. And if they ever return, they return to a version of you that no longer needs their validation. A version that's wiser, quieter, and far more powerful than the one that once waited. So write this in the comments right now. My silence is remembered. Let the world know that your quiet strength carries weight, that you don't chase, you don't beg, and you don't explain what's already self-evident. Your energy was the gift. Your absence is now the reminder. If this message hit home, and I know it did, tap that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Stay grounded, stay quiet, stay powerful, and until next time, keep leading with peace.